Devin Pike with the Dallas International Film Festival, and once again, a phenomenal block of shorts, both live action, narrative, and documentary as well. One of the shorts deals with the student loan crisis, and make no mistake, it absolutely is a crisis, and if you don't have to deal with it, if you're shrugging your shoulders thinking there's not really a crisis going on in America, ask anyone who's dealt with a student loan over the past 30 years. David Esfeh and Ben Bhatti are here, the directors, producers, craft services, everything for the short. First off, guys, thanks for bringing the short to the Dallas International Film Festival.
Thank you for having us, yeah.
I know I could basically throw a rock across the street to SMU where you guys had your start. When you were thinking about making a documentary short about the student loan crisis, did you look at it as there's no way we can even do this as a short film? The subject is far too broad.
Definitely. It was something, when we started the research process, it was something that kept growing as we were doing more research. We learned more and more. And one of the main things that we found out is, as you were saying, a lot of people didn't know about how bad it was. So as the short film, we decided that, and we did that as part of my thesis for USC Film School. We decided that the main thing that we should focus on is just making people aware of how bad the problem is. So we made this the goal of the thesis to make it all about basically raising the issues that surrounding the student loan debt crisis.
And I think, initially when we started the project, me and David had been going back and forth and sort of talking about the whole educational system. When we initially started this project, we really wanted to look at what's going on with the entire education system. We're kind of at this end game in law school when me and David met. And we're kind of looking at what is, this whole system that we're going through. We come out of the end game with a lot of debt and not a lot of skills. Not a lot of ability to go out and to go be a practicing attorney. It seemed like there was a lot of wasted time. So we kind of went back all the way to pre-K and saw that it was a very systemic problem that we have in between our grade transitions in our American education system. So when we were putting together the film, it really wasn't a student debt film. It was more or less looking at the student, sort of our whole educational system. And it got to the point where we were like, well, it looks like the student debt is the end game. That's what happens at the end. You go to graduate school or higher education and you get your degree. And it seemed like a lot of people that were smart, intelligent, hardworking people were coming out with mountains of debt that was crushing them.
When you're speaking to your various subjects, you're not only talking to people who have suffered catastrophic losses in their personal life, in their financial lives, their professional careers, but you're also talking to senators, representatives, people who have a vested interest in either seeing the status quo remain exactly the way it is, or might actively be campaigning to make a fix. Did you have a list of people where you knew who your hit list was going to be, where we cannot do this short without this person specifically?
Definitely. When we started, we actually started with over 200 names that we definitely wanted to get. And for the purpose of the short only, we did over 100 interviews. And it's a list that keeps growing because there are so many people who are coming into the circle of wanting to talk about the issue and raising awareness, and like many professors, deans, from all different walks of life. People are joining because when we started in June 2012, it was an issue that you heard about, but it wasn't something that you kept hearing about. And it's becoming more and more.
And sort of, to kind of piggyback on what David was talking about, it was one of those issues that when we started looking at it, really hardcore was in 2006 when we were both, when I started law school and when David came in about 2007, he's a year behind. And we saw a couple people that were talking about it. And sort of, me and David come from different political backgrounds. He's more of a Democrat and I'm more of a Republican. And so we kind of followed both parties and looked at who is talking about this subject. And we included in our film was Elizabeth Warren, who has come out on the topic and is sort of advocating towards it. She's kind of put her presidential aspirations aside and decided to kind of work on the student debt problem. Senator Mark Rubio, another very middle-class person who had a law degree, featured in the film as well, is another office that we've been in contact with. And it's an issue. It's a definite issue that a lot of these members are aware of. However, the stalemate in Washington is really problematic in terms of addressing it. There's not a lot getting done out of Washington right now. And the resulting factor is, a populace that's not having legislation and the government working for us in the most efficient way possible that it needs to.
The conversation that has to come out of watching this film, regardless of, again, your socioeconomic background, your political background, the conversation comes after you see all of these people weighing in on the issue. I'm curious what your plans are for the short after the festival circuit.
And sort of what we've been trying to do, and David was in Oxford actually recently and screened the film at Oxford University in England and had a very warm reception out in Oxford, and actually ran into an expert at Oxford that is writing her thesis on the U.S. student debt problem, because it's an issue across the pond over there. They're looking at the United States and saying, look, we have student debt in England, and it's about 50 billion right now. Well, the United States has 1.2 trillion, and it's growing exponentially. What are they going to do about it? Because it's going to affect the global economy. So what's going to happen next? We were at University of Wisconsin-Madison just last weekend, screened there at the Wisconsin Film Festival. We have screenings set up at our alma mater over at SMU and University of Texas. So
screenings all over the country. We had a screening at my high school. We're having a screening at his high school. We want to take the film around the country at different campuses and high schools. And while we're doing that, taking the message of the film, we also want to cover the journey and talk to more people and learn more about now, because we did what we could do with the 20, which was talk about the problem. Now it's what can we do and who is going to do it. So the feature documentary journey, which is going to be Educaution 101, is actually discussing more what can be done and how, and who is going to actually help resolve the problem.
So you led into my next question with Education 101. Was that a part of a larger plan when you were working on the short? Did you know that the short was going to lead into the feature, or did you say, all right, we're going to do the feature, all right, we need to at least cap it off into a short and get the message out there before the environment changes on it?
Yeah, because when we started, and Ben and I, while we were going to law school, the subject of efficiency of higher education and overall approach to the education system, Ben obviously has a lot of experience in education. So it was something that we always talked about. So when we started doing the film, the long-term plan was always, education is not just raising awareness about student loans. It's about the overall system that is failing so many people from various socioeconomic backgrounds.
And even with the name Educaution, the real intent of us coming up with that name and sort of putting it as our name of our series that we want to create eventually was to really raise awareness about our educational system. It's not be cautious about going to school. We all believe that a higher education and that other paths of education are necessary for our populace to gain a middle-class lifestyle. However, a lot of those pathways that have originally existed for previous generations have kind of evolved into dilution and degrees that aren't really getting people a lot what they need out in the global workforce. And not only that, the K-12 system, we had the wonderful opportunity of interviewing Secretary Dr. Page, who's a former Secretary of Education, and at South by Southwest, where we started the journey on Education 101, and he was gracious enough to interview with us, and we asked him point blank, what do you believe? Do you believe our K-12 system produces a populace that can compete globally? He, without missing a beat, said no. And I would agree with him. I don't think that our educational system does enough to create that.
So there are all these red flags that are not only documented in the short, but that you're gathering as well. Anything even approaching a solution from the people you've talked to?
I mean, there are solutions. The good news is that a lot of people are trying to resolve sort of not just the student loan debt issue, but the efficiency issue, which it feeds into the problem of student debt. But the main thing is people demanding change, and that is where we are lacking.
And I think, we have an executive producer, Rex Score, who has started a small little micro university down in Austin, sort of an experiment to reach out to lower income students, and was one of the reasons why we wanted him on board as an executive producer, because of his heart for this topic. He created a university to really sort of create a blended learning university where kids are taught more skills. A lot of the students are students that failed out of the community college or didn't have the opportunity to go to a regular four-year institution. So it's catching those kids that are falling in the gap of, what do I do with my life? I need an education, I need skills. I don't know if community college is good for me. I don't know if four-year university is college. I mean, where do I fit? Where do I need to be? I need some soft skills. I need some hard skills. I need to learn how to figure out how to get to the next level. I need to be more directive in my learning. I need to take more personal responsibility for my learning. So there's solutions out there. They're trying. They're experimenting. It's just a matter of trying to figure out what's gonna be the best one to go forward with and keep trying and experimenting with them.
If someone came to you guys in, say, 2005 and said, in 10 years you're going to be beating the drum on how to fix the American educational system, would you even believe them at that point?
I mean, everything is possible, but I think it's gonna take longer than 10 years. And
I think with my experience being in education, I saw it as an issue. When I got into law school and started to face the debt that I was facing, I couldn't in good conscience go to my students that are from lower income areas that are, don't have a lot of the support that I had from my family when I was going to drop out of law school my first semester, and everyone was like, no, stay in law school. Just keep going at it. You'll get over it. A lot of those kids that I taught at Teach for America, they didn't have that. They didn't have those role models. They didn't have the family support to do that. And for me to say in good conscience, yeah, go to law school as your pathway out of the lower class into the middle class lifestyle or upper middle class lifestyle, I think would be a farce if they're going into a lot of debt. It personally affects people in ways that aren't intended. A friend of ours that we graduated law school together married a guy, and he comes into the relationship with no debt. She comes into the relationship with full law school debt. Combined household income creates a situation where she has to pay 110% of her salary towards debt. She's contributing nothing other than servicing her debt to her family. And she wants to start a family. And looking at it from the perspective of weighing how much am I going to work, or should I just maybe stay home and be a stay-at-home mom and not contribute? Not that raising a child is not contributing, but she wanted to give back in another way and work as well, use her law degree.
Or get divorced.
And
that's something she mentioned actually to us. She is considering, doing that, because it is for a lot of people. You have to file jointly, and
All right. It's overwhelming because I've met several people who are in similar situations, and I guess the biggest question is, where can people find out more about Educaution and Educaution 101?
Well, we have a website, educaution101.com, Facebook, same thing, Educaution 101, on Twitter, and hopefully as we go on, we want to expand our social media networks, and with your help and hopefully more press and everything, it's going to reach a lot more people.
And really, we look at it as a film that can start a campus movement. They can make high schools and college students aware of what the next step is in their life. What's going to happen after they graduate high school. It's very telling when we screened at David's high school out in Milwaukee at Nicollet High School. There was a student that raised the issue. She said after the film, I'm scared now. I don't know what to do next. And that's a concern. That is something that the middle class has to be aware of nowadays. You have to be aware of what debt you're taking. You got to be cautious about your debt, because there's unintended consequences, and there's consequences you don't see when you're, enjoying undergrad or law school or anything else, and sort of have to deal with when you become an adult.
And also parents being able to teach their kids from an early age, watch which pitfalls you hit in the education system, because they're not going to be able to pay off their kids' debt. They're barely able to pay off their own.
Yeah.
Check it out on educaution101.com. You can also find out more information at dallasfilm.org, where we keep up with all of our alumni films as well. Guys, thank you for bringing this film to the festival.
Much.
It is a pleasure to have you here, and a very moving piece. So thank you very much for your work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.